Hi everybody, Lonna here. Welcome to my studio. I hope you're ready to paint today because this is a fun one. It's my Zen moment. Minimal colors, lots of impact, so fun. I used my Deco Art Traditions paints, my absolute favorite paints to use. There is a link below directly to Deco Art. Please use that if you're going to go there and shop, and use the coupon code that I've provided below. If you don't want to use Traditions, there is a conversion in the PDF file which you can get on my website lonnalamb.com, which has full written instructions, everything I use, step by step, photos, a full color photo, so it's all there for you. But you can use the conversion that I put in there to Deco Art paints. But for now, let's grab whatever paint you're going to use and your supplies, and let's get painting. Let's start this project. I have an 8x10 canvas panel, and I have applied 2 coats of white paint on here with my damp artist sponge and lightly sanded it. It is pretty smooth right now. Feels almost as smooth as paper, so this canvas took the paint really well. It's a Master's Touch from Michael's. No, Master's Touch. Hobby Lobby? Can't remember. Okay, so I've taken a watercolor pencil and marked down about 4 5/8 inches and marked a line with my watercolor pencil in a green, light green color, since we're going to be adding some greens to this. And I'm getting ready to tape off just slightly below this line that I drew. Okay, so let's tape this off. I don't have enough tape on this roll, so let me grab another one. This one has plenty. Almost didn't cut it long enough. I'm going to go just below that line. We'll capture that line in our painting. And normally I would fold these over so that I can quickly peel them off, fold them over on themselves, but I didn't make it long enough, so I won't be doing that. Alright, so I've got a damp artist sponge here, and so I've just completely filled it with water, wrung it out, and then squeezed it out into a paper towel to get the excess out. You want to feel that it's damp so it will release the paint. You just don't want it dripping with paint, okay? So I've got some colors on my palette. Now I am using the Traditions line in the Deco Art paints. Traditions. Americana is the kind I normally use, but Traditions are my favorite, so I'm going to be using them. They're more a artist grade, medium artist grade paint. So I've got aquamarine, cerulean blue, pine green, Hansa yellow, but I think it only comes in, this particular paint only comes in Hansa Yellow Light, so you'd want to have Hansa Yellow Light, medium white, and white. So we're going to see how this is going to work out. I'm doing a Zen kind of painting here. So I want to start with some of my yellow and white on my, maybe some warm white, and the yellow. I want to start this at the horizon line with my sponge. And my canvas is nice and smooth, so I'm going to have a nice smooth painting here. Alright. And then I'm going to go to the other side and get some maybe aquamarine and cerulean blue. And I don't want this sky to become green, but it does need to have a little bit of green in it. Let's add a little white to that. It's a little bright for a sky. A little more white. Okay, I'm going to bring it down to the yellow, but not like go directly into the yellow. And then I'm going to come to the back side of my sponge where I don't have any paint and just kind of soften these 2 colors, because we're going to add some little like cloud shapes in here. So I just want to kind of soften where these meet. Just a gentle little rubbing and buffing, and get a little glow in the sky. We're going to do more to that. I have to get it dry Let me put a little bit more of this lighter blue up here. So I'm going to get it dry real quick, and then we're going to go in with some lighter colors. Alright, so I'm going to continue to use this sponge, but I am going to go to the back side of it and get some of that warm white and white mixed together. Just a little bit of each onto my sponge. Where's my paper towel? I'm going to tap onto my paper towel here and just get a little bit of that out. And now I'm going to kind of squeeze up my sponge, so I'm just getting that light color in here. And we're just going to kind of scumble into here. Okay, I'm going to go over to my blue side. I'm going to tap some of the paint off because I don't want a lot of paint to blend this out. And I'm just going to very gently blend that into the blue with my blue there. And down here on the yellow, I want to get a little bit more of the white into my sponge. Tap some of that off, and then we're going to lighten up down here a little bit with some yellow-white color. Maybe a little bit more of that mix here of the white and the medium white. Tap it off. Where the two colors meet, I want to have a little bit more of this color in here. And then I'm just going to stay on this side so I can blend it. Maybe if I can get a clean spot to kind of blend that. I don't want the yellow to be quite so, I don't want the yellow to be quite so bold because we're making a Zen painting. Alright, so now that we've got this, I want to create some little distant bamboo stuff, like maybe over in this corner and behind where this main one is going to go. So I'm going to grab some of my pine green just on a corner of my sponge here. Maybe a little bit of that medium white in there to dull it down. And I might put a touch of cerulean blue in there. Yeah, that's better. That kind of tones it a little bit. I am still going to tap this off onto my paper towel because I want just a little bit of this over in here, or we might see some bamboo like peeking over into the background. I mean, it's not going to look exactly like bamboo, but alright, I'm just taking a spot that doesn't have any paint and blending that. Let's go back down here, kind of over blended that. This is kind of distant stuff. We don't want it to get too dark. I guess I should put this up on my easel. It might be easier. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of this over here. It's going to be behind the bamboo that we're going to put in. So I'm just going to tap some of this in here. And then I'm just going to soften it down. Oop, not with the yellow. Let's not do the yellow to soften it. Yeah, try to keep a clean spot somewhere on your sponge so that you're not overfilling your sponge. I'm not worried about getting stuff down here because we still got our water to do. So it's just a light tapping and a gentle blending. and kind of build some of that color, distant stuff in there. Now you can also take a, if you got a good manicure, you probably don't want to do this without having gloves on. Let me clean my hands a little bit because I want to grab one of my paint brushes here. And we're going to just create some stuff, some really small, loose that green mix that we did with the cerulean blue, the pine green, and the warm white. And I mixed a little water with my paint, and I just very loosely, and that's still too much paint, so let me wipe some of it out. And this one might be too big of a brush here. Like distant leaves in here. You don't want them to be very bold or big. But this side will be seen over here, so we want to keep it not overly done. And then over here, a little bit of that blue in my paint. And remember, bamboo is a little bit more, the leaves are a little bit more straight. And I'll just take my baby wipe and tap to soften those out a little bit. This is distant stuff, so we don't want it to become too dark. But you can also use your finger to kind of tap. Okay, this is background stuff, so it's going to be behind our main bamboo. Okay, that gives us just a fun little subtle background going on here. Just stuff that's light. And we got this soft, nice soft sky. So I'm going to take my tape off. Alright, and then we're going to dry it and retape the bottom part. Okay, mine's dry. I'm taping off for the water area. Now I slightly captured, I went just slightly above where I taped before. I still see some of my chalk pencil, or my watercolor pencil. I want to make sure that I capture that when I'm doing my water. I rinsed out my sponge and it's damp. I didn't wash it, I just rinsed the color out till the water ran clear. But when you're done with it, you want to wash it. And how I do mine is I take some hand soap and I lather it up in my hands, and then I pick up my sponge and I rinse it first and get the majority of the paint out of it. And then with my lathered hands, I work that into the sponge, rinse it out, then I take hand sanitizer and do the same thing. This will break up any soap that's left in the sponge, and then rinse it very thoroughly with cold water. Cold water also helps take the soap out better than warm water. Okay, let's work on the water. So I want my water to be a little bit more of the blues and some of the white. So we're going to take aquamarine and cerulean blue. Okay, I want just a touch of green in there. And then I think we'll try just straight white in here. A little bit more because I want it to be a little lighter. I'm not sure if the warm white will. Oh, definitely don't want yellow in there. But I got some in there anyway. Alright, let's see how this color is going to look on here. Oh, that's a nice That's a nice color for water. So there's not a right or wrong to the mix. I'm going to have to do it a couple of times. I do have a little bit of that yellow in there. That is kind of pretty, actually. So it's the aquamarine, cerulean blue, a little bit of pine green, a little bit of white, and a little bit of the medium white. Now if you accidentally tap into your yellow, that's going to be fine. Okay, I'm going to dry this so that I can get a second layer on quickly. Alright, go back into my mix that I've made here. And I'm going to put another quick layer on here, maybe. I feel like any's coming off of my sponge here. Get a little bit more of the mix. And your mix doesn't have to be exactly as it was before. We're just going to get it on here. This is just flat, basic painting here. We'll put all of our water stuff in it, and that wasn't quite dry because it started lifting. A little bit more of the aquamarine. Okay, it's okay if your water is streaky. Don't feel like you have to make it a solid color. So mine's very streaky. I don't know if you can tell that or not. So it's got lots of varying colors in it. Tap some of this in here because a couple places weren't dry. So they're a little splotchy. A little more splotchy than what I want. Alright, let's remove this tape for our clean water line. The water was probably the easiest thing to do because we didn't have to worry about if our colors were blended well. We didn't have to worry about, you know, if we can see one or more color because it's water, and we're going to add stuff to it. So this is just kind of like the underpainting for the water. So let's get this dry. While it's drying, let's go clean our sponge thoroughly and add our line drawing. Okay, I've got my line drawing on. Now I did use gray and white graphite because I wanted white for my lines in the water. And then my line drawing, when I printed it, does not go all the way to the top. So I'm just going to remove it and grab a pencil and bring my leaves up to the top where they need to be. Let's see, this one has a leaf going here and one going here. This actually goes over that. So, you know, if your line drawing prints out and it's not going all the way to the top, you can, it doesn't matter which way you adjust it. If you adjust it above, it doesn't matter if the horizon line is exactly on the line drawing. But if you put it on here and you want these to be at the very top edge so you know where they're at, just put it up there. That means you'll have to adjust these down here to bring them down. So it's, you know, it's one or the other. You'll have to adjust the line drawing. And I just did basic lines telling me where things were. Nothing big or anything like that. So I think that's good enough for our line drawing. So we're going to get ready to paint. And I'm going to get this up on my easel. Okay, let's work on our stones now. And we're going to paint them in. They also have a reflection, but we're going to work on the reflections after we get all of the main elements painted in. So for our top stone, grab a smaller brush here. Might be a little big. Maybe I'll try filbert, see how that works. Okay. This top stone is going to be the lightest one, so we're going to create kind of a light golden color. So I put out on my palette yellow oxide, and I'm going to mix it with my medium white and white. I need more white out. And we're going to grab some white and mix in here. That's too brown, so let's add more of that gold in there. Some of that paint on my brush. We want this light kind of gold color. Let's see how this paints on here. Okay, that's pretty good. Cover up your graphite lines. If you don't cover them up, you can erase them later, but you know, if you don't want to do all that erasing, just make sure that you cover them up. Alright, and the next one is going to be just slightly darker, so I'm just going to get more gold on my brush and blend it in. Everything will take 2 coats, so okay, then the next one is leaning more towards, I want to say, an olive green, so I'm just going to dirty brush. I'm going to dirty brush into some yellow and a little bit of green and make this kind of olivey green color. Maybe just a touch more of the gold. So we've got this kind of olivey green color. Now when I do my second layers, I'm just going to brush blend the same way, and my color may not be exact, but it'll be close enough for a second coat, so I'm not too worried about it. I don't necessarily need to mix up a big puddle of paint. Alright, the next one we want a little bit more blue in it, so I think I'm going to take the aquamarine and mix it into my dirty brush. And I think I'm going to add a little bit more of the medium white, a little bit more aquamarine. I want it to be kind of a bluish green color. This one definitely will have to have 2 coats because it's so close to the watercolor. A little bit more of the green in there. Not that that will probably show up much on this layer, but I haven't cleaned my brush for any of these stones. Okay, now for the next one, I want kind of a bluish color, a more blue, I want to say blue-gray. So I'm going to pick up the cerulean blue and mix that into my dirty brush. Teeny tiny little kiss of black. Mostly cerulean blue here. Next color will definitely Makes this a little bit darker, but this is a good base. Cerulean blue is a little bit transparent, semi-transparent, so, you know, I probably will use a little white in the mix next time. You want kind of a blue-gray, maybe just a little bit of lightning in it. So let me wipe my brush out, kind of smooth this out. Got a few little ridges in there that I don't really like. I like for my paint to be a little smoother. Okay, so we are going to let that dry. And I think this rock here, if I can get enough of the paint, I'm going to bring it down a little bit here. Okay. I mean, your rocks don't have to be transferred on perfect because, you know, rocks just aren't perfect. Okay, for our, this stuff over here, bamboo, couldn't think of what it's called for nothing. We want to make like a bright green color. So I'm going to take my pine green and my Hansa yellow, mostly Hansa yellow. I want this bright kind of yellowy green for my bamboo. Okay, and we're going to do the leaves first. So we're just going to put a layer on for our leaves. Oops, got my brush upside down. So we're going to do all the leaves in this color, and I may go off camera and just work on these so that we're not watching a bunch of repetitive painting here. I could speed it up through here. I think I got all my leaves. That's all of my first coats. Trying to decide if I want to go ahead and go down and do the reflections because they are going to be the same color. So I'm going to get a little bit of water in my brush, and this we want to be a little wiggly. And that's two stems there, and then this is the bamboo in here. I've just added water to my brush to get this color to be a little bit lighter. Okay. We'll probably just do one coat on the reflection. Maybe. I haven't decided yet, but we need to go over and do some of the color here. So up here in the top one was the, what did I use? I used white, medium white, and yellow oxide. Get this close. That's pretty close. we're going to be doing shading and highlighting on here. So now I'm just going to get a little bit more of the oxide in my brush, the yellow oxide, into my dirty brush. I'm doing it just like I did the first ones. Okay, I need a little pine green now in my brush to make that olive green and some of the bright yellow. That's a little more of a brighter green, so let's get some more pine green in there. That's just a little bit too bright. I had a little bit of that Hansa yellow into my brush as well, but not too much because that makes it almost overly bright. Some moisture. I'm going to add just a teeny tiny little bit of either black or cerulean blue into that. Okay, that was way too much. That's way too much. I'm going to have to remix my mix here. Just a tiny little bit of that cerulean blue. And then this color goes in the water. More blue. You want it to be a little bit more of a blue-green. So cerulean blue and pine green, and then some water in there to kind of thin it down. Still needs more blue because of the water itself. Add a tiny bit of white in there, I think. And now it's lost its blue, so go back to some blue. I'm just going to wipe my brush out so I can get that blue in the mix and hopefully be able to see it. I want this to be a blue-green. And so I'm using the cerulean blue because the water is mostly aquamarine. I don't like that color right there, so we're just going to lift it off. I want more blue. Green that I had on there to begin with. It's too green. Okay, this color that I just put in the water, although it does need to have just a tiny bit of that green in it. We're going to put it down through here. Okay. Then these two are going to be these colors, so I'm going to go back a step to that green and yellow. More olivey color. It still needs some of that blue in it though, because we're in the water. So cerulean blue. white in there. Too much white. Definitely needs to have more of that green. This is the one that we're doing, so it has to have more blue. It's hard to get that blue in the water though, and the cerulean blue is transparent, so it's fighting me a little bit. So just pick up more cerulean blue, I would say, as you paint that one up there. Well, you don't want the cerulean, well, you do need it mixed for the next one, so you could do that. Okay, and then this one can be just a little bit lighter, so we'll go into some of that yellow oxide and a little bit of white to get this one a little bit lighter. Okay. We're going to have to put more green in there. Alright, where was I? I don't think I'd put a second coat on that big one yet, and I'm going to get a bigger brush to do that. So that was cerulean, a tiny bit of black, pine green, mostly cerulean on this bottom one. Alright, I'm going to wipe the excess paint out of my brush and get some water in my brush. And then we're going to try this down here again with that more moist blue color. More cerulean blue. And I'm going to put a little blue into this green one that wasn't dry. So I just lifted my paint right there. Get that yellow out of my brush, goodness. Totally wrecking this one here because my paint wasn't dry. Got in a hurry. Okay. That looks better for our reflections. This still needs to be a little bit more green. So I'm going to get it dry and then I'm just going to make a wash at that green and blue mix. Let's make sure it's completely dry and completely cool. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Oops. Let's get that dry. Okay, let's add our main stem for these two and then their reflections. So we're going to create more of this color. I'm going to attempt it. So I'm going to use the pine and the yellow oxide and the Hansa yellow. And a touch of cerulean. It needs to be more yellow, I think, so let's add more Hansa yellow in there. A little more oxide. Let's see how this looks. I think it's going to need more yellow oxide in it. Okay, yellow oxide, Hansa yellow light, pine green, touch of cerulean. Kind of what we mixed over there, only more of the two yellows. We'll do it 2 times. And then we'll also do this in the water. I want it to be a little wiggly down here, and then it can go smooth. That was a little bit fat. Let's not have it quite so fat there. Oh, I did it again. Needed a little bit wider there, but not super fat wide. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Not that we're going to see much of that, but we'll try to intensify it. And then this one goes behind here. And I'm going to bring it out here because I feel like we can see it there, although the line drawing doesn't show that. It's like that one that's going behind up there. So we'll just do it that way. And then that's probably dry already, dry enough to put a second layer on here. So that has all of our elements on here, and it's looking very, very good. Okay, I've decided to add another color to my list of paints here, burnt umber, because I feel like I'm just going to need it for my rocks. So we're going to start out by just stippling in some light colors. Let me grab a stippling brush here as soon as I find it. Okay, this is just a really worn out filbert brush, so any kind of brush that you want to use for stippling, I am going to dampen it and then squeeze out the excess moisture. I want to start putting some light colors on our stones. So I've loaded my brush with just some white. I'm going to tap it off, and I'm going to start stippling on this side of the stone to create some lighter textured area. I'm also going to use it on this one. Okay, on the next one I'm going to add a little bit of warm white to my brush, and it can mix with that white a little bit, and we'll stipple on this one. This is our light side over here. Just creating some texture in the stone. And we'll go down and do this one, same color. Just bouncing some light color in there. A little bit more of that medium white. Right through the center. And then for this one down here, we're going to use that medium white as well. Yeah, I'm just going to go with the straight medium white first. We'll have to wash over this one with some blue, probably. Okay, so we can go down in the water and create some light areas in the water. This is that medium white, so I'm just going to put a little bit in here. And our reflections right through here. It doesn't have to be as textury down here because it's reflecting in the water. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush. I need to get that medium white out of there color because I want to go back and do this again, and we're going to start with the white. On this one and this one. A little medium white in my brush. And we'll go to this one. And this one. And now for this one, I've got that medium white in my brush, and I want to get a little tiny bit of cerulean blue and blend that, and we'll go a little bit of a bluish, a little bit more blue in there, I think. A little bit more of a blue color up here. We are going to wash over our stones, you know, kind of take that highlight down some. Alright, get a little bit of that paint out of my brush. Actually, I need a little bit back in it. I'm just going to go down to the stones. I think in the water here I want to use my round brush. And I'll grab my round brush with that medium white and a little bit of blue mix. Create some little bright highlights in the water here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, I want to take my burnt umber and really thin it down with some water. I think on this first one I'll add a little bit of that oxide color. And we'll add some shading down here and on this side. It's a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of the yellow oxide. Okay, I'm going to get just a tiny bit more burnt umber. I have to go to a different spot on my palette to try and mix, because there's white paint mixed underneath there, and it is mixing with my paint as I wet that. I think I just need to get a new palette. Okay, a little bit more of the burnt umber in here. Keep it soft. Kind of wiped through that, so let me see if I can put it back on. To go with this other mix. Okay, now for this one, I'm going to take my burnt umber and my pine green. Mostly burnt umber and just a touch of pine green. Maybe a kiss more pine green. We're going to shade underneath every stone. Right now we're just getting the shadowy colors on here. I'm going to dirty brush into some cerulean blue and mix it with that pine and burnt umber that I had there. Okay, and then this one we're going to get the cerulean blue, and I'm going to add a tiny little bit of black. Now I'm still dirty brushing here. I'm not washing my brush out in between. Okay. Alright, I'm going to wipe the excess paint off my brush and just put that color that I just put up there. Need a little bit of moisture and maybe just a touch more. I need a little bit of black in there. Make this show up in the water. There we go. A little bit of shadow in the water there. Kind of got it on the stone. Just try to bring it down into the water a little bit. Okay, now we're going to put our shadows on here, so we're going to go back to our burnt umber. I'm just dirty brushing right into it. I want a little bit of moisture in it with my brush here. Maybe not quite that much moisture. Okay, so it's shadowed on this side. mostly burnt umber for this one here. Okay, so we started creating a little bit of shadow in our reflection. It's looking good. Now let's go underneath every stone here, and we're going to start with some burnt umber up here. I might have to add a tiny little bit of black in there, just a little kiss of black. I don't want that to be super wide, so we're just going to use this same mix on these first three. Burnt umber and a touch of black. And then we'll put more black in our mix for that one. More burnt umber. I need to bring this over just a little bit here. I have to get more moisture on my brush here. Okay, that's looking pretty good for our first shading. So we've got our first highlight and our first shading on our stones and our reflections. Okay. Okay, let's start our stippling again. We're going to start with our white. On this one. And this one. Okay, and a little bit of the medium white in my brush. I want it to mix with that white. Just creating some texture on our stones. And our brightest side over here. Okay, a little bit more of the medium white. Just repeating our steps. And down here we're going to take those two colors and get a tiny bit of cerulean. And tap down here. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush off as much as I can and do just a little bit more tapping down here. Okay, we'll finish out that area underneath there later. I didn't shade to underneath these, so I want to make sure I do that as I do my second shading. So that's a little bit more white and give these a little bit of bright edge just over here. We're going to wash over some of these areas, I think. Alright, let's redo our shading now. And we started with our burnt umber. Our burnt umber. Really thin it down in my brush. I'm going to put a little bit of that gold in there, so it's not quite so brown. So it's a little touch of brown with our yellow oxide. A little bit more yellow in there. It's too brown. Okay, now I can add that little bit more burnt umber into this one. Those two stones are looking a little bit the same color, so I'm going to take some yellow and wash some yellow onto that. Okay, so I want to get a little bit of the green in my dirty brush here. And we'll go down here and a little bit more burnt umber now. Okay, the next one, we can add a tiny bit of cerulean blue in there, but just because the mix on my brush is so dark, and I don't want it to be quite that dark. Okay, then we'll take more cerulean blue and a little touch of black for this bottom one. It's a big rock. Okay, then we'll take this mix that we used up there and we'll go underneath in the water, maybe a tiny bit more black in there. Okay, I'm going to go back because I should have done the green, greenish blue color down here in the water. Okay, now I need to separate these stones down here, so I'm going to get some burnt umber. Create that little bit of shadow in there. See, this is the shadow side. I want to get a tiny bit more cerulean blue and some moisture in my brush. I want to get these edges out here more. So I want to take a little bit of cerulean blue and kind of wash it over. Cerulean blue is so transparent, it's very, very hard to get it the way that you want it. But let me dry these stones a little bit more. So I'm just repeating, I repeated all of my shading and highlighting. Now I want to wash a little bit of color back on these stones of their corresponding color. So I think I'll start at the top because I dirty brushed into most colors. So the top one was the bright yellow, the Hansa yellow, and the other yellow, the golden yellow. And I just want to create a wash and put some of this back into this stone. Make it look a little bit more yellow. Now this is just a wash, so it's not going to take away our shading. You could make this top one a little bit more white. Maybe paint it, I don't know, the medium white with no yellow in it. Okay, so I wiped off my brush and I added more of the yellow oxide to my brush. So I can get this one back to a more yellow color. I don't want to completely fill in my highlight, but I do want it to be different. That one is just, I don't know. Let me go into some warm white. I mean, medium white. I just really feel like this stone up here needs to be lighter. So I just dirty brushed right into some medium white. And I will have to redo the shading on this one. And probably the highlight, because it is just, it was just too dark. I didn't like how dark it was. It needed to be lighter. And then this one down here can be that more yellow color. So I'll redo the shading on that edge there. Go down to this one. I'm going to add some green to my golden color. A little bit more green. And a little cerulean, because that's kind of a blue-green, looks like. And we'll just get some of this color back in here. Let's kind of blend it out back here into the shadow area. I'm trying to keep it more on the stone and not so much this one. Okay, and then this one, oh, not that one. I keep going to the wrong stone. This one here, I need more pine green in it. Wash my brush out because I need to clean up my background before it dries. Got a little messy there. Okay. This one needs a little more. Let me dry it. It needs to be a little bit more blue in it. So I think I'm first going to take my wash of pine green and go back over this one, get it a little bit greener, and then grab some cerulean blue and add that to my wash. So I can get this one a little bit more of a blue-green. And then this one is a cerulean blue, tiny bit of black. Black is powerful, so you got to be careful with the black. So this is how you know, if you get your shading and your highlighting just overwhelming the rock. You just put some washes back in here and bring it back to life. We can still see our highlights in there, but now our stone is more blue, and then this one needs to be more blue-green. Okay, and then we got olive green, a golden, and I still got to get that one a little bit lighter. Okay. And I'm just going to put a little bit on these in the water. Okay, I've got to work on that top stone up there and then redo the shading on this one because it just needs to be lighter. It's too, I don't know. I just want it to be a more neutral color, so maybe I'll just repaint it in. This is a mix of medium white, a little bit of white. You can kiss a little tiny bit of yellow in it, just so we start blending it down with the one below. It just needs to be lighter, and that looks much better. So I can add my highlight back on here and do some shading, and I got to reshade underneath this one. So I'll just go ahead and grab some burnt umber and shade underneath this one. I'll just clean up with some burnt umber underneath all of them. Okay, that got a little wide. It's kind of washy. Washy-washy. Add a little blue or a little green into that down there. You can add a little bit of aquamarine into your stones now that you've got them established. Reshade this one because I washed over it with a little bit of a different color. And then we'll give this top one a little bit of shading with some burnt umber and medium white. I think that's gonna do that one much better. And then I'll put my little highlight back on there. with some white. Okay, that's a lot of white. Okay, I think on the bottom of this one it needs a darker shading. So let me do that one. That was kind of that blue-green, a little bit of either burnt umber or black. I want to make sure it's dry. It doesn't quite look dry. Needs to be darker. Okay, I need to reshade the bottom of that, and that was that mix of medium white and a little bit of burnt umber. Okay, that top one looks much better now. I'm happier with it. Being a lighter color. Flinging my paintbrush. A little bit more cerulean blue here. I just need the end of the stone to be more the base color. So the highlight looks like it's more on the stone, you know what I'm saying? Okay. There's my little scruffy brush here. Okay, this one needs to be darker on that edge because we're one note here from this one to this one. So I'm going to make a little wash of black and green, maybe, and just darken this edge more than that one. Alrighty, daddy. We're going to call these stones done. I think they look pretty done. That was a lot of fiddling and fussing on that. So I'm going to go back in my instructions. I know my pictures won't follow it, but that top rock, I want it to be the lightest rock, so we're going to make it the medium white with just a touch of the yellow oxide in it. So we can kind of have more value going down. This one could actually have a little bit more yellow in it. This one looks good, this one looks good, but I'm not going to go back and change it. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. But, you know, if you're painting it, you might want to make this a little bit more yellowy green than I did here, which means you'll probably have to add like some aquamarine or something into that color. But I think overall the stones look good. Our reflections look good. They're bold enough, bright enough for me. We'll do finishing details around this one when we do all of this out here. So we're going to move over to the bamboo and finish out the bamboo now. Alright, let's work on our bamboo. Excuse me. I want to take just a few leaves and slightly darken them by putting a wash of, I'm going to use aquamarine and pine for my wash. Just get a nice color that you like. And then some of these leaves, I want a little bit more runny wash. I'm going to wash these leaves with this color. Maybe a little bit more of the pine in there. So just go over some of them. Now, before you start doing this, if you can erase some of your lines back so they're not quite so, you know, if you haven't put any paint over them, you can erase them back and get them out of the way. So you can do the same leaves I'm doing, or you can just kind of pick and choose and do what ones you want to do. This is just a wash on here, just darkening them. I think they need to be just a touch darker. Especially this one. Could be darker. I feel like this one could be a little darker as well. So it's just pine green and aquamarine. You can add some cerulean blue. It's a transparent color, but it can help darken up your green a little bit more. I would not use burnt umber or black to make your green darker. That looks much better. We'll still be doing all of our shading and highlighting on these leaves, so. to my edges there. And I'm probably going to use this mix to shade the bamboo. So this was cerulean blue, aquamarine, and a little bit of pine. Or a little bit of cerulean blue. The rest of it is aquamarine and pine. You know, if yours is not coming out as dark as you want it to be, you can add just a tiny, tiny bit of burnt umber. I might have to go to a smaller brush here. This might be too big for this area. So we're going to go along our shadow edge here. We're going to be putting in our separations, we're going to put a little bit of something in there. This is just that mix. I'm going to add a tiny bit of burnt umber in there. See if I can darken that a little bit. And then this one over here, we can't really see too much of this edge. But we'll try to get a little tint of this color in here. Just kind of scoot it along that edge there. Okay, before I go much further, I want to put the areas in between. I'm going to take my yellow oxide and a little bit of the medium white. Just a little bit of that medium white. And that in there to kind of separate the sections of the bamboo. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, let's do the reflections with our shading color here. And then this can be kind of wiggly here. And this one's just going to get a little bit on this edge. Alright. I think I'm just going to go ahead and finish out the bamboo shoot, the big stick here, before we move on. So I'm going to pick up some of the bright yellow, that yellow oxide. I just dirty brushed into it. I'm all about going into the next color with my dirty brush. I'm going to see if this is going to be light enough for my highlight. Oh yeah, plenty light enough. I'm going to highlight to this edge. All I did was pick up a little bit of that hands of yellow and mix it in with my paint that was already on my brush. Okay, So let's go up here and do this little bit of bamboo that we can see. I did go down to a 1/4 inch angle brush because I knew I couldn't get this on these without having a smaller brush. And let's go down into the water. And remember, we want it to be wiggly over here. I'm not sure how well that wiggly is showing up for you guys. Wiggly. We'll lighten that a little bit. And wiggly along that edge. Okay, now I'm just going to dirty brush into some white. And we'll create a little bit of a brighter highlight. Just kind of dry brushy. White ink back out so you can see the whole entire thing here. A little bit on this one. Need some moisture in my brush. I want to be dry brushy, but I don't want it to be quite so draggy. Okay, we'll go into our water and kind of do the same. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, so I think that part's done. Let's try and do a little tiny bit of shading, which might be a little bit tricky. We're going to take our burnt umber. I might have to go to a little chisel brush because I can really get fine shading with it. So let me grab a small chisel brush, and we're going to shade these little things right here. Okay, we're going to use some yellow oxide and a little bit of burnt umber. If I can get some. Mine's getting a little dry. Okay, and we're gonna do each side of this maybe. A bit more burnt umber. This is going to be a tedious little step here, but thankfully there's not a ton. Flip it over and do this side. Just tapping a little bit. These over here we won't see a whole lot. I'm going to get a little bit more burnt umber on my brush here. Maybe. And a little bit of the green. Okay, and then this I want to put under them. This is the tedious part. See if I can get a tiny bit more burnt umber. Mix it in with my green, a little moisture so I can move this paint a little bit. We'll go right above it. Now we already shaded above that, it looks like. I didn't shade above that one, so okay, let me get a little bit of green and shade. Which one did I not shade? This one. I didn't shade underneath that one when I came up, but I did that one, so that's good. All right, so now just a teeny tiny little bit of some white. Kind of right through that middle there. Okay, that is the way we're going to do that. Kind of lost my yellow in here. Okay. We'll just call those done. They were kind of tedious, so you just do as little or as much of that as you choose. Okay. All right, let's start on the leaves. Leaves should go fairly quickly. We're going to shade them all with the same mix on the light ones and the same mix on the dark ones. So actually before I start shading that, I think I'm going to dry brush my highlight in there because I want to shade the tip and I want to shade both ends of the leaf. So I'm going to take my yellow, my bright yellow, and my white, and a tiny bit of green. Too much green, too much white, so let's get more yellow. Still need a little bit of white because I need it to be brighter than what's on here. So I'm just going to dry brush in the center. A little bit more yellow in there. Just kind of dry brushing in the center. I'm just using my little filbert brush that I kind of painted them in with. And then let's go down here and do a little bit of some dry brushing down here. Now, if your canvas is more textured than mine, you're obviously going to pull a little bit more paint than I'm pulling. I'm going to go back over these with some more yellow. Just picking up straight yellow on my brush and lightly going over the center of these light ones. And then I can do a couple down here with a little bit brighter. Okay. So on the darker ones, we want a little bit more of a blue-green tint. So I'm going to go into some aquamarine and my bright yellow, mostly bright yellow and a little bit of aquamarine. Let's see if this color works. Yeah, that's a good mix. Yellow with a little bit of aquamarine. just in our dark ones. A little bit more aquamarine in that. And we don't have any dark ones in the water, so this one here can get a little bit of this mix in it. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Our bamboo, our highlight. So now we're going to start our shading on all of our leaves. I think I might want to darken the edge of the bamboo first, though. I'm going to do my pine green and some burnt umber. Just a little bit darker. This is a pretty sheer little layer here, so it just looked like it needed to be a little bit darker. That looks much better. Okay, if you need to, I felt like I needed to. I'm washing some of the base mix back over just to brighten up my bamboo. Trying not to get it too much into the shading color, just through the center and down here in the water as well. Let's see that lighter green color in there. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, let's finish out our leaves. So we're going to shade at the base of them. We're going to do the light ones. I'm going to try just straight pine green and see how it looks. I think it should be dark enough. I think this will be good by the time we repeat it. So we're going to do the base and the tips. With this color. This is just straight pine green on the light ones. Let's keep them kind of pointy back here. They are pointy on both ends. You'll do the ones in the water the same. And I may go off camera and I'll do this row right here. I'll just go off camera and finish them out. And you'll want to do 2 coats. Keep them pointy on both ends. Fresh paint will probably do best here. My paint is not the freshest. I'm using a 1/4 inch angle here and really keeping it up off of the canvas here to try and get it tight in that tip there. Alright, I'm going to do 2 more and then I'll just go off camera and finish them. And when I come back, I'll have put 2 coats on each leaf. So I'm going to go do that, and then we're going to come back and work on the darker leaves, which I can just finish right here on camera because there's not a whole lot of those. Don't forget the ones in the water. Okay, so I've only done 1 layer on the back and tip, but I think I'm going to have to do a little bit down an edge because I feel like it's too much of a gap. So I'm going to go down 1 edge on these leaves. So it's going to be the tip and the back end and 1 edge, the lower edge. We'll just call it the lower edge. Okay, so I'll just show you these right here, and then I'll go off camera and do the others and get my second coat on everything. Okay, I've got 2 coats on my lighter leaves now, so we're going to go to the darker leaves and we're going to do pine green and a little bit of black. Make this darker green, and we're going to do the same at the tip and the base, and this one here we're going to go along this edge. Get a little bit more. We're going to go along this edge. Give it a little shadow underneath that leaf. Okay, it's pine green and a little bit of black in there. Okay, here. Alright, where's my next dark leaf here? That's this one. Go along this edge. One here. tip, the base, and one side of it. Okay, so I'm going to get this dry, and mix this one up here, and I'm just going to go off camera and get the second coat on it. It's the same. We don't have much left to finish up here on this. I've got to get some shading on the reflected leaves down here. I'm just going to do it one time down here. I don't want to do it twice because I don't want it to be quite as bright as the leaves up there. So I'm going to do my dark leaves a second time and then go down here and do, these are all light leaves, and so they'll get just the pine green shading. Okay, I'm back on my darker ones, and I'm just using a little kind of dry brushy of some of the Hands of Yellow. You can mix the teeniest, tiniest bit of that pine green in there. But this is going to lighten up these darker ones on one edge just a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. So all of our shading is done on our leaves. We've got to put the center vein in and then attach them to the viney things. I'm not really going to do much more to the vines. They could get like a lining of some burnt umber on them. Well, I might do that because this one definitely needs some shading on it. So I think what I'm going to do, well, let's just finish out the leaves first and get those done. Let's create our center vein. Our center vein, we're going to use that mix that we used to shade our darker leaves. The pine green and a little bit of black. And we're just going to do the veins on all of these. A little bit of water in your paint to get it to flow. And the center vein, it can go the full length of the leaf pretty much. Okay, that one had a ton of water in it, so try and get some that doesn't have quite so much water. That is way, way, way too wet. Take that off, I'll come back to it. So now we need to attach them to their vines. Oh, I gotta finish this one out. Oh, I didn't shade it, so let me shade it. Shade it back here on this back edge. And on the tip. So we've got to put a vein in that one as well. Let me dry that one so I can finish it out and get its vein in it. Okay, and then I'll put its little vein in there if I can get any paint left off my palette here for it. Okay, so there is that one. Goodness, I'm not sure why I'm sliding down my thing all of a sudden. Okay, let's do our lining on our edge of our vines. I'm just going to use burnt umber. And I'm going to use a detail brush. And I'm just going to go down one edge and we'll see how it looks. I have to get a different liner, or it doesn't seem to want to hold on to the paint. I don't know if it's the liner or the paint. So I'm going to get a different detail liner. And I'm just going to go down one edge here. Try to stay on the edge. Hang on to the canvas. Probably doesn't really matter which side you go on these. You can have your vines much thinner than what I have painted mine in. And then we want to do in the water. Let's see, it's this side. Wiggle, wiggle. I put a little bit more water in the mix so this would stay lighter in the water. A little bit here for some shadow. And then let's do, I'm gonna have to do my little chisel brush, I think. A little shadow here, some burnt umber. And here. Straight burnt umber. You don't need moisture on your brush for doing these small areas. Just corner load your brush with some burnt umber. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, let's connect our leaves. We're going to use our detail liner. We're going to create that mix that we did on the vine, which was our two yellows and a little bit of green. Mostly our Hansa yellow. let's work on our water rings that are coming out. I think I'm going to mix cerulean blue and aquamarine. And we're going to go on the outside edge of our lines. Create our little rings. Okay, now over here where this is, we got to create a little bit of kind of shadow areas here as well. So we have to, I'm going to add a tiny little bit of black in with my blues. And so these lines here, okay, so we just want to make sure we can see our little ringlet lines coming in through there as well. I'm going to take a little bit of this darker mix and put it in a few places out here as well. This is that same blue mix. I've just added a little bit of black. Okay, just to create a little bit more depth in our rings here. Okay, I'm going to rinse this brush because I want to take some of that mix that I just made right there. And I want to put some of this color out in the water. And we can come right over our stuff out here so that we can look like it's behind the water a little bit. at the base of this. Okay. Okay, so we've got our rings going out everywhere. So now we need highlights in the water. So we're going to take our 1/4 inch angle and corner load and blend into our brush just some straight white. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit of cerulean blue to that, so it's not pure white. And we're going to, I think I'll start out farther so I can use more of the flat of the brush. Okay, this is white with a tiny bit of cerulean blue. Okay, don't forget to go over your stones with this. Okay, that's a lot of paint. Okay, let's take some of this color and mix a little bit more white and cerulean, some water in the mix. Then we'll go out here where we created these farther out little ring things. So we can go over our elements with some highlight. We just want to make sure that we bring some over. Our stuff in the water so we can make it look like it's pushed down into the water. here. We'll put a little bit. We can go back in and brighten some of these areas. Okay, I gotta mix a little bit more here. Get some water in my brush. I'm up on the chisel edge of the brush now so I can get a little bit sharper lines coming through here on top of this dry brushy stuff. Alright, so over here where stuff is under the water, I'm going to do a little bit of some wiggling. I don't know why my paint is drying out so quickly on my brush here. It's frustrating. Alright, I think my highlights in the water are looking pretty good. Alrighty daddy. I think that looks pretty good. Pretty good. You can add a little bit of lightness back in here if you want. Just using what's left on the brush back in here. Just to make it a little bit lighter. But I think that is it. I think that's it. I think I love it. I feel zen and peaceful after painting it. I think it looks amazing. Amazing. Turned out really good. My camera seems like a little crooked. Something looks crooked. Okay. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. This has been a fun one for me. Of course, I always love creating reflections. That's super fun. And I think this turned out really, really good. I love everything about it. So I hope you've enjoyed it and paint it and have fun with it. Please give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this. Please subscribe. Please comment. Commenting and liking. Huge, huge, huge to help me on my YouTube channel. If you're watching on my YouTube channel. And I appreciate you guys. So I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.